Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Ask PQ on Bloomberg Quint Live. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Hey Navneet, and I'm Alex Matthew. If you've got questions on equity, do send them to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp. You can also call us on 022-454-04141, or you can mail us on askpq@bloombergquint.com. Just make sure to add the Ask PQ hashtag.
Okay, straight to a corporate conversation. Bajaj Consumer reported 7.5% growth on their top line, but higher other expenses weighed on the margins this time around, which declined to 28.5% from 30.4% from the year ago period. Well, to know more, the likely impact of consumption slowdown on earnings and more, let's welcome the Managing Director of the company, Mr. Sumit Malhotra. Hi, Mr. Malhotra. Good afternoon to you, and thanks a lot for joining us on Bloomberg Quint. Top-line growth seen, but despite of higher gross margins this time around, we've seen the operating margins coming lower due to higher other expenses. If you could first give us a sense why the other expenses went up during the quarter, and do we also see this trend continuing in the coming quarters?
See, the higher other expenses is largely on account of advertising and sales promotions, which have gone up by more than 200 basis points. And if you see the drop in operating income, it's a little nearly the same as the increase in other advertising expenditure. Advertising expenditure has really gone up because of the launch of a couple of products that we have invested in during the Q1. As we go along, I think the EBITDA or the operating profits will go back to around 32% from the current 30% that we are at.
You're suggesting the margins will go up to 30 to 32% in the coming quarters?
Operating profits.
Operating profit, all right.
Margins have anyway gone up. If you look at the operating profits. Yeah.
Okay, definitely, sir. The gross margins are up 130 bips is what we witnessed. But talk to us more on the consumption slowdown that we've been witnessing. And I think the commentary also states that sequentially there has been a slowdown in the rural market and also in the wholesale channel. What are the current trends suggesting?
See, if you look at the first quarter vis-a-vis the fourth quarter of last year, you'll see that the growths of the total hair oil have dropped from around 8.9% to 4.4%, and that's quite a steep fall. It's halved at this point of time. The biggest drop has happened in the rural areas, which is where the growths in total hair oil is at approximately 4.8%, as against something like 11%, which was there during last year's same quarter. So if you look at it, the buoyancy or the hope that was there in the fourth quarter of last year that the rural demand would continue to rise has really not translated. And despite rise in MSPs, rise in the subsidies the government is, we still haven't seen any kind of positive growths coming out of rural consumption. And that, I think, for the total FMCG category and also us is a source of discomfort.
So then how are you looking to increase your penetration and also your revenues from the rural market? Is the company offering more discount? Though you've posted volume growth of 7.7% for Bajaj Almond Drops, but in value terms, what was the growth?
See, if you look at it, the volume growth of Bajaj Almond Drops is 5.2 and the value is approximately 8.5. Now, these figures differ from yours because you're probably looking at our investor presentation, which shows the total growths including international and canteen stores, whereas the figures I'm talking about is domestic almond drops. But figures apart, there are two ways you can react to the current situation. One is reduce your expenditure and try and maintain your operating profit. The other thing is invest during this time and build your brand for times when the growth start coming back. We are doing the latter, and we are investing, like you have already seen, in advertising and sales promotion, largely focused on rural. We are also investing big time on increasing our distribution in the rural areas with the premise that the growths would come down in an economy like ours, which is very heavily dependent on rural consumption and the population being largely rural. You have to keep investing, otherwise once the growth comes up, you'll be doing only catch up there.
Mr. Malhotra, this is Alex here. I just have a question with regard to the statement that you made with regard to the rural segment and how it's playing out. Just want a sense, and this more or less fits with everything that we're hearing from the FMCG industry. Will you have to really curtail your expectations for the rest of the financial year then? And will you have to lower your expectations for revenue growth? You've already said that you're focusing on investments and building really for the future with the demand scenario as it is.
I wouldn't be so negative about it. I would be more cautious, and I think the position will be clear in another quarter, that what is the trend in terms of consumption, because you should realize that if rural is the drag, the time that you'll see the positive or negative impact improving or going down would be during the harvest season, which would be somewhere near October, November, and therefore that would be the time that you really start either reducing your expectations or expecting an improvement in the consumption scenario.
Okay. Also, Mr. Malhotra, are the ad expenses going to be higher for the remainder of the year, or this was just a one-off because of new launches?
There are two parts. One, the new launches, I don't think you'll see very heavy expenditure during the remaining 3 quarters. On Almond Drops, it will remain high because, like I said, that I strongly believe the time when growths are not coming, that's the time you've got to invest. You've got to find the money to sort of put behind brand, because once the market turns, you should be top of mind in the consumer's thought process.
Okay, lastly, just leave us with a guidance then. Can we expect margins going back to 30% for the entire year? What sort of top line growth are you targeting for FY20, and also the domestic volume growth for your hair oil segment?
Normally we don't give guidance, and that's one of the reasons why you see our investor presentation having a lot of data. We believe that with the data you have, you can do your own model. But having said that, I don't see gross margins dropping any further. If at all, you'll see it going up in the coming quarter or so, largely because all the raw and packaging materials basically are benign. The only joker in the pack, which is the light liquid paraffin, which could go up, we have stocked up till October, so you won't see any negative impact. In terms of advertising, I believe it will be high, but it won't be that big a drag on your bottom line in the coming quarters. In terms of growth, it all depends on how the total hair oil volume and value growths go up in the remaining quarters, because the current growths are not great. It's around 5.3%, which is something which has been the lowest in the last 8 quarters. So if that doesn't change, then there will be a strain on growth of all brands, and more so our brand, which is the single largest hair oil being sold in the country today.
Okay, Mr. Malhotra, we leave it at that note. Appreciate you joining us today and taking us through the quarterly performance, and all the best to you for the remainder of the year.
All right, well, that was the management of Bajaj Consumer taking you through the financial results and indeed the outlook for the future. Let's get our 2 experts in for the day. They're both in studio today. Kalra of Target Investing and Aditya Agarwala of Yes Securities. They're both here to answer all of your questions. Gentlemen, you just heard that conversation. Very quickly, I want to take your view, Samir, on the fundamentals, not just very quickly on Bajaj Consumer, but also the overarching theme that he was talking about in terms of rural consumption. Is it something as an analyst that worries you in terms of the earning projection for the rest of the year?
So I think on the consumption, I've been kind of negative in past 6 months because the volume growth is not sustainable in any kind of manner. then specific to Bajaj Consumer, I think it's better to stay away right now because they are a single product since long time now, and Dabur now has become very active on the almond side. So they're facing a little bit more competition than usual. That's why the other expenses you might see comes as a promotional expense as well. So I think over there it's better to stay off any consumption stock for next maybe 9 months.
All right, I missed this because we've got technical and fundamental picks for you. Let me take you through Aditya's technical picks first. He's got 2 for you. He says that you can buy Castrol with or between the range of 127 to 128. This is he also says that you can keep a target of 136 to 140. Stock is currently at 127. The stop loss on this trade is 121. The second call is a buy on X side with a target of 214 to 218. The stop loss here should be 201.
Okay, and on the fundamental side, Samir is recommending to buy Deepak Nitrite. The time horizon here is the next 1 year. He set a target of about 400 rupees for this stock, which is currently trading at 306. And the rationale behind that Samir's highlighted is better phenol and acetone capacity utilization. Also, the debt reduction efforts made by the company.
Okay, let's talk about another segment. And see, you can't really say it's the consumption play, but it's interesting because you need footwear irrespective of what's happening, right? So Relaxo, how do you rate the fundamentals? And would you recommend, Deepak Yadav wants to know, he wants to enter for the long term. Would you recommend that?
So I think, Alex, where you're saying that you need footwear, the valuations doesn't say that you need footwear. The valuation says you need every day a new footwear.
Okay.
So I think we are coming back from that levels to maybe you need a couple of footwears a week kind of situation, if I talk in that sense. So I think Relaxo, Bata, Liberty, they are good companies. They have shown the kind of comparison, but I think the valuations are overstretched. And I feel the more the burden on the working capital side, so Relaxo out of all has a highest requirement of working capital. And I think that will get pressurized in next 6 to 9 months. So I would stay away from it.
Okay.
Okay, it's the higher valuations which is not appealing to Samir, and he's saying to stay away from Relaxo. Let me take some technical queries now. Akshay Mittal writes to us. He has Cholamandalam Finance at 283. Let's just pull up the current price and check whether it's above his price or no. Okay, actually it's below 276. Aditya, what would you advise him to do? Would you advise him to keep a stop loss or exit?
I would recommend put a stop somewhere from 270. 270 is an immediate support. If that is taken out on the downside, stock can witness sharp corrections in that case to levels of 250 on the downside. So for his long trade that he's entered, 270 is an immediate stop loss. Exit below that. On the upside, he can see levels of 300 to about 320 if stock manages to take support at 270.
Okay, Samir, Ujjwal Kumar has got a question on Reliance Nippon Life Asset Management, and basically he's talking about the fact that he's holding since IPO. What should his strategy be in the context of everything that's happening with not just the company but also the group that it belonged to?
So I think AMC business is facing a lot of pressure from, let's say, SEBI or what they've done in the last couple of years. So I think it's better to get out for once if you hold since IPO. Secondly, now when Nippon has kicked in, so I think it's better to maybe go to a SGFC, AMC rather than staying over there.
Okay.
Okay, that's the view coming in on our NAM, and we are getting queries on Yes Bank. Aditya, I'm not going to come to you for that one. Okay, on Facebook, Deepak Joshi is asking, can we buy Yes Bank before the results? And also we've got a query from Gunjan Tulsian, who wants some information, maybe fundamental view on this counter. Samir, last quarter earnings, post that there was a huge sell-off, brokerages came up with downgrades, cutting down the target price, and though the management highlighted that they will achieve ROE of about 1.5% by FY 2021, fundraising plans is something which is, I think, concerning the street. But just ahead of the numbers, what would you advise traders to do, and for investors who are already holding on to Yes Bank, your thoughts?
So I think whoever is holding on, hold on to it. Even if the announcement comes and you see 10% jump, that really doesn't matter from the levels which you already hold from. So I think once that is firm on paper and the results are better than quarter on quarter, I don't see, and slippages are better, then that's a point where you should add on. So it can be maybe a 10% or more from here, but don't anticipate anything. Because what happens if in anticipation the traders have already taken a position, I think, where they see lesser pain or capital raising news have been coming up. But for an investor, I think it has to come on paper and get confirmed before he adds on any positions.
Okay.
Ahead of the numbers, by the way, there tomorrow, Alex. It's up 4 to 4.5%.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the stake sale or the fundraising plans for Yes Bank. Let's talk about Bibin Matthews' question on Tata Motors. He's asking for a technical view. He's holding at levels of 168, which is pretty much where the stock is currently. In fact, stock is up 4.3%, perhaps on the back of the news that we've heard with regard to Jaguar Land Rover and electric vehicle technology. But let's not attribute that. Let's talk about the technicals. How do you see the near-term targets?
So near term, definitely there's buying which has emerged in the stock from support levels of 150. 150 is an important support level for the stock going ahead. If it trades above 168, I'll not shy away from taking a long position in Tata Motors. Mind you, 168 is an immediate resistance, so I would want the stock to trade above 168. In that case, my targets would be as high as 184 on the upside. We'll place a stop somewhere around 160 and look for a long trade above 168.
Okay, pull up Sundaram Fastness. Chetan Thayil writes to us and he's asking if the current levels are good enough to make a fresh entry, though he wants to buy it for a longer term time horizon. The stock's down 2%. If possible, let's pull up the YTD performance and check how the stock has been doing in this calendar year. It's down almost 13 to 14%. Samir, since he wants to add into his portfolio, would you advise buying into it?
So I think wait for any addition in the auto sector. Give it another 6 months or 9 months, and I think that'll be a better place to add it up rather than right now and seeing the stock price, because fundamentals don't point to any kind of reversal anytime soon.
Okay, now I promised that I would take only one stock per person, but I'm going to make an exception here because we've got a 20-year-old who's asking a question about his portfolio. Okay. And you can simply say which he should hold and which he should not. Okay. He's got 6 stocks: Aksh Optifiber, Sterlite Technology, First Source Solution, Gen Irrigation, Lumax Auto, Take Solution. Which should he hold for the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think almost maybe a Take Solution can be one of them. Because rest, I really don't believe in that's something, because he's 20-year-old right now. He can do that mistake right now rather than holding on to them. It's better to get out. If he's starting to invest, I think it's better to stay with SGFC Limited. Okay. Maybe a SGFC Bank. Stick with the market
Blue
names
chips first.
Maybe even a Nifty ETF or a mid-cap ETF at right now levels will give him good amount of money. Don't venture into the mid-caps and small caps. It's too early as an experience, I think.
Well, kudos to you, Hariom, for actually having a portfolio at this stage. What were you doing when you were 20 years?
I was in college and I didn't have any money.
Okay, let's move on. Pull up RBL Bank. We've been talking about this one. I think it's down for the second straight day today, 4.5% lower. The numbers come in on 19th of July, this Friday, and we've seen a lot of weakness in the last 2 sessions. Aditya, on the charts, if somebody is holding at levels of 680, would you advise to book loss here?
There's a massive erosion that the stock has definitely witnessed in past trading sessions, from 650 down to 780. I believe there's more downside to it. 560 could act as an immediate support on the downside. So I would not recommend exit because he's holding from 680 levels and down to 580. It's almost 100 rupees down. I see for another 20 rupees downside support out here. So place a stop at 560. If that level holds on to it, then probably you can see a rally back to levels of 620, 630. At the moment, hold on to it. Place a stop at 560. If that is taken out, you're out of the trade.
Let's talk about Larsen & Toubro. It's also seen a correction in the recent past. We've got Rangarajan Balakrishnan, who's entered at levels of 1,502, if I'm not mistaken. He's asking whether he should hold on at this point or if he should exit.
So put a stop at 1420 because stock has already seen significant correction from 1600 down to 1440. So I believe a chunk of the correction is already in there, already in place. Put a stop somewhere around 1420, 1415. If that is broken on the downside, then there could be another leg of selling which can emerge, which will drag it to 1340. So for the time being, hold on to it. Put a stop at 1420, 1415.
Okay, the next query is from Shiraj Ragul, and he wants a long-term view that's for next 5 years on IDFC First Bank. And Sumit, this happens to be, I think, one of the favorites of our viewers. Invariably, we get a query on IDFC First Bank almost every day. Would you advise someone to hold in their portfolio for next 5 years?
I would advise, but don't buy today to hold it or out long for 5 years. I think you can do a SIP kind of a way on the quarterly results, not on every month, because what will happen next couple of quarters, I see even further more clearing of the assets which are there, because the new management is much more conservative. So I feel now it will be more aggressive on the provisioning side.
I just want to take a fundamental view as well on Larsen & Toubro, because Ankur Bhanot is pointing out that he's bought at levels of 1540, so similar to what we saw with regard to the technical query. We've got that out of the way, but from the perspective of 2 years, do you think that he should hold on?
So he should hold on, but I think it's better to get out for once, let it unfold for next 6 to 9 months and then see the price. Because on the infra side, I don't see that much of L&T contributing to the system. For the incremental side, defense and all will play out in next 9 months or 12 months.
Okay, I'm revisiting RBL Bank because we're getting a lot of queries. Vivek Kanuja has written to us. Also, Krishna is asking why it's falling significantly. Just to alert our viewers, again, the numbers come out this Friday. Ahead of the numbers, there is sell-off seen. Aditya, I'm going to take fundamental view from Samir, but before that, would you, I know I've taken your view, but at what level would you advise people to buy again RBL Bank?
Okay, so I'll closely watch if how stock behaves close to about 560, because 560 for me is a very important support area for the stock. If it manages to hold on to 560 and trade above that probably for half a trading day, then I can go ahead and buy the stock. And if I'm buying about 100 shares, I'll look to buy first 50 and see how the stock behaves throughout the trading session. If it holds on to 560, definitely I'll add up another 50 shares. But if it breaks down 560, the immediate downside support is at 540, 535. So there'll be another 30 rupees correction that we can see in the stock. So that is one area where I will look to average another 50 stocks. So close to about 560, I'll put in half of my money and see how the stock reacts. If definitely falls on to 560, I'll add up my entire number of shares. If it breaks 560, I'll look around 530 level to add on the rest of the shares.
Samir, nervousness ahead of numbers, are you reading? Should one read too much into it?
So I think the nervousness is more on the exposure of all these NBFCs and the companies which have defaulted in, let's say, last results to till this results, and the disclosures at the bank level. So I think that's more important, and I wouldn't take any kind of trade before the results come in. Let the results come in, let the slippages come out, and then it's a better place to buy in.
I'm putting you in a bit of a tough spot here, because we've got somebody who's gotten into Maruti at levels of 9,000, and he's asking for a stop loss at this point. It's 6,155, so 32% drop in the share price. What would you advise him to do?
So if he's looking for a stop loss, 5,700 will be my stop on the downside. I believe Maruti should hold on to 5,700, should not break easily. That level, that's a very strong support zone for the stock. And considering the fact that the stock has witnessed significant correction, and almost you talk to anybody on the street, he's bearish on Maruti at the moment. So for that, I want to be just for that reason probably a contra play. Put a stop at 5,700, and if it holds on to it, you can again see levels of 7,400, 500 on the upside.
On the fundamentals, does it make sense to bite the bullet?
No, it doesn't.
Hold
For
on.
me,
Hold
yeah,
on. Hold on. Okay. All right. I believe it's time to get started on the rapid fire segment. This is where we try and fit as many questions as possible into the span of 2 minutes. Quick reminder, do keep your answers as short as possible and as cogent as possible. Assembling videos wants to know about Wipro. Interesting call name there. But Wipro at 290, should he hold on?
No, I see further downside to it. About 260, 255 can be seen on the downside.
Samir, do you like Torrent Pharma?
I do like, but not if you want to enter, not right now. Give it a couple of quarters before you enter.
Praveen Matthews wants to know about between Metropolis and Dr. Pat.
I think Dr. Lal has a better valuation and better cash flow.
Aditya, Dheeraj has bought Tata Elxsi at 950. He's asking, should he average or wait it out?
Oh, he should not average, definitely. He can wait it out, put a stop at 800. If that is taken out, you're out of the trade.
Today's results is so
So you would want to watch it very closely.
Okay, let's talk about PNC Infra, bought at levels of 200 for the short term. Should he hold or book loss?
No, definitely hold on to it. It's just a minor correction that the stock is going through. Should resume its upward trajectory soon.
Samir, do you track Shreyans Industries? Somebody wants a view from you on Shreyans Industries. Okay, fair enough. View on Pidilite, would you recommend buying currently?
Not right now, not on the consumption side.
If I'm not mistaken, you have recommended Petronet LNG,
Yeah.
right? Between GAIL and Petronet LNG, which one would you pick?
Either anytime petrol.
Petronet, okay.
Okay, coming back to you, Samir. Hero MotoCorp, would you advise buying at current levels?
Not right now.
Tata Alexi bought at levels of 950.
We've done that.
We've done. Okay. Aditya Birla Capital, buying price is 125. Should they average now or wait? I know your strategy, which is to average on the upside.
Upside,
right? Okay.
true. So don't average.
Aditya, Tata Motors move is sustainable?
I believe 168, I just pointed out, if it manages to trade above that, yeah, it's trading above 168, so I believe it should sustain. Put a stop at 160, look for targets of 180 above.
Have we already done Pidilite?
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about Hero MotoCorp then. Karthik Ram wants to know, can it be bought for the long term right now?
Not right now.
Okay.
Okay. Rangarajan wants to know on L&T, I know we've addressed, but at 1502, what would your advice be?
L&T?
Yeah.
So don't enter it at the moment. Wait for the stock to show some signs of bottoming out formation, then probably look to enter it.
Very quickly, Samir, I want to ask you, because this is a topical question. If the CPSE ETF launch, will it have any effect on the constituents, especially BEL?
No, I don't think so. It won't have that much of impact because the proportions are already set in.
Okay.
And they don't disturb the whole.
Fair enough. All right, well, I believe that's all the time we have on this edition of Ask PQ. Thank you, as always, to both my guests, Samir and Aditya, for joining us on this conversation.
Okay, remember, we're just a tweet, post, or a call away, so please keep your queries coming, and we promise to address most of them through our shows. For all previous episodes, you can visit our YouTube channel or our website, bloombergquint.com. Up next is Power Lunch. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.